Welcome into another episode of Sunday Flags. I'm your co-host Mason Kinnahan, and filling in for Luke Brown today is Henry Sklar. Henry, you're going to be a contributor for our Sunday Flags Substack site, and this is your first time on the pod. You know, golf is back. The golf season's back. We had our first tournament last weekend. What are the vibes like? How are we feeling? I know you're down there in Alabama. Some crazy weather we were talking about too.
Yeah. First of all, I guess I'll just formally or informally introduce myself. I'm Henry Sklar. I'm a junior at the University of Alabama. I love golf. I'm studying sports media, minoring in general business. I currently cover Alabama athletics for Bama Central on SI. You can go check out all my work there. Everything's on my Twitter, on my portfolio. Everything's up there. But yeah, I'm excited to join the show. Yeah, we do have some crazy weather down here. But yeah, this should be fun. There's definitely been there's been a lot more developments than usual for it to be like early January, early in the year. We have a lot to talk about today, so I won't waste too much time, but excited to get going. Yeah.
It's been quite the electric start to the golf season, more so off the course than on the course. But between LIV and Koepka and all of that, things are up and running. Things are going immediately, even though we haven't even gotten, to the first signature event yet. But let's just jump right into the recent news. We'll get to previewing the Amex in a little bit, but the big news that off the course this week was the addition of Michael La Sasso to LIV Golf. He'll be joining High Flyers GC, which is Phil Mickelson's team. La Sasso is the reigning NCAA champion, individual champion. He was going into his senior year, I believe, at Ole Miss, and is elected to turn pro. Just 21 years old, Henry, and this is a pretty big move for a guy like him, who is still an amateur. He had a Masters invite because he won the NCAA individual championship last year. So he's giving that up and giving up, his final year at Ole Miss to head to LIV Golf.
Yeah, I'm not sure really what angle we want to talk about this at, because I feel like there are a lot of different ways you can dissect this move, whether it's for La Sasso himself, for the PGA Tour, how their outlook is on this, and also the future of LIV Golf. I guess I'll get into La Sasso first, because he's the name, right? Like he's the big name. Stud at Ole Miss, NCAA champion. He played out for the Walker Cup team. He was at the USAM out at Olympic Club. He's a stud, man. He generates a lot of power on the golf ball. He helped Ole Miss to a great season last year in the college golf season. And I think, Mason, which way should we talk about this at?
Yeah, I think we'll start with the PGA Tour's angle, right? Because La Sasso, from the PGA Tour's perspective, they're seeing LIV Golf now try and get these younger golfers like La Sasso, like Elvis Smiley over in Australia as well this offseason. So from the PGA Tour's perspective, would you be worried that some of these younger golfers that may be heading onto the tour in the near future are heading now to LIV Golf?
I wouldn't be worried if I was the PGA Tour, because I feel like the PGA Tour as a league has a pretty sustained model where there's always going to be names popping up. There's always going to be guys coming through Q School, coming through Korn Ferry, coming up through the amateur ranks. We're going to pop up out of nowhere. There's going to be seasoned pros who maybe have been on the fringe of keeping their card, haven't really contended, that are going to pop up. Last year, who would have predicted Ben Griffin to go out on a tear in May? Or who would have thought Chris Gotterup was getting Ryder Cup mentions by the time we get to August? I feel like the PGA Tour is in a fine place, but from a LIV perspective, I think this is the pathway they need to go down to, sustain their model, what they're trying to do. We've heard people talk about LIV ad nauseum. I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty stuff, because this is not the time or place to do that. But I think, like you mentioned, getting some of those young guys, getting a guy like La Sasso, who's he's a big name. I don't know. This is the model they need to go down. I think Graham McDowell had a really good tweet earlier that LIV is becoming a solid path for young players to go down. Like I said before, Q School, Korn Ferry, it's a grind. It's almost like playing the lottery, trying to get your card, and getting your card is not something it's not a given. You're not guaranteed to keep your card, and that's very volatile for young players. If I'm Michael La Sasso, I get offered whatever $1 million amount of dollars that LIV is offering me, and I get to go get mentored by Phil Mickelson, I get 14 guaranteed tournaments a year, no cuts. He's already in the news, so it's not like he's looking for more notoriety. I mean, I think this is a good move for him. Like, I don't hate it, and I think this is the path that LIV Golf needs to go down.
Yeah, I agree. And for LIV to survive, before the signing, it really seemed like the PGA Tour got momentum right in the Golf Silver War with bringing back Brooks Koepka, taking him off of LIV, and then the announcement of the returning members program, which it doesn't look like any of the other eligible guys are going to be returning to tour, but just starting to put that pressure on LIV. So they started to gain momentum because of that. But with an addition like this, I agree how LIV needs to start aiming to land some of these younger players, because right now it doesn't really seem like they have momentum in terms of landing the bigger names on the PGA Tour that have already solidified themselves as some of the best in the world. I think the plan for them is trying to get these guys that maybe will blossom into becoming, one of the young stars in the golf world. Maybe like for example, a Ben Griffin, right? Maybe like an Akshay who LIV tried to go after, but is still pretty young and elected to stay on the PGA Tour. I think La Sasso, he has the talent definitely to be, really good, and he's still really young as well. Like I said, he is skipping his senior year at Ole Miss to make this move.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of points. I think the thing that a lot of people are missing is that in the short term, this is not going to be something that really, hurts the PGA Tour. They're not. I mean, La Sasso, he played in 6 events. I mean, he had a really. I remember the 3M Open. I was looking at the stats earlier today. He was 100% in greens in regulation in the 3rd round at the 3M this past season. And I think in the short term, like, you're not going to miss a guy like that who played in 6 events, missed the cut in the majority of them. That's not a big deal for the PGA Tour, but golf is not a sport where, in 5 years, there might be a whole different slew of guys who are the names we're talking about. And, going out and getting a guy like La Sasso for LIV, going out and getting a guy like Jose Ballester, Arizona State, that happened last year, getting these young guys who have shown potential in the collegiate game, who have shown potential on some of the biggest stages in the amateur game and even in the professional game. I mean, Ballester, he had, good runs himself. I think that's the formula for LIV. I think there's been a lot of ego involved in LIV. Like you mentioned, they went after a lot of big names. That was kind of their goal from the start, to get these big guys. That's why they went out and offered Jon Rahm millions of dollars. They offered Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, all these guys millions on millions of dollars to get those names. But it's a competition, and the PGA Tour is not going to be losing out on guys every day, right? So you have to find a well to get talent. And I mean, going into the collegiate ranks, that's not a bad idea. I think college golf is probably the most overlooked, sector of the sport, and getting a guy like La Sasso is huge for them.
Yeah, it really is. And, from La Sasso's perspective, when you're offered, I'm assuming, this is an assumption here, but it's probably 8 figures to make this move for La Sasso. So if you're offered that, a huge signing bonus, and like you mentioned earlier, 14 guaranteed tournaments, you've got, you don't have OWGR points, but you've got a lot of money now.
And they're working towards that. Like, they're making changes to try to get towards that.
Yeah, I don't know how confident I am in that happening soon, but they are. I mean, in the negotiations, they're probably making that case as well. So, adding a guy like La Sasso is definitely pretty big, and golf is a sport that can change very fast, and he is someone that could quickly, rise up the ranks and be a really big golfer, 4 or 5 years from now. And you mentioned Ballester and Elvis Smiley, who's a young Australian as well, who was an addition this offseason. LIV is starting to get younger. We saw them originally give up these big signing bonuses to these veteran players like the Dustin Johnsons, the Phil Mickelsons. But with those guys getting older, and I really don't know what the future is for a Dustin Johnson, or maybe even like a Patrick Reed as well on LIV, especially if the PGA Tour still maintains the momentum in terms of the Civil War. I think it could open the door for some of these younger players to slowly kind of get into a bigger spotlight because of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the shift you mentioned within Live. You know, like we've both said, they offered a lot of these veteran players, maybe some players that people would call washed even. But this is we've seen them maybe get a little more serious in some aspects. I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw like players have to wear pants now. Like,
Yes.
you know, maybe some of the stuff about Live is gimmicky. I think we can all admit that. You know, Live is a little bit of a clown show at times.
Yes.
But with this trend, getting younger, getting guys who actually, like, I'm sure Jose Ballester and I'm sure Michael La Sasso still would love to play in the Masters. Like, I know he's giving that up, but I'm sure like that's going to be on his docket one day. You know, I'm sure he'd love to play in April at Augusta National. And I don't know. I think the main issue with Live is the format. It's still hard to be serious about something that's a 3-day, you know, shotgun start.
But now it's 4 days. They added
4 days.
Yeah.
That's adds on to the point. They're getting a little more serious. They're trying to, you know, work their way towards getting OWGR rankings. My mistake on that, but this is the trend that they're going to have to follow, and I think it could be a very formidable route for them.
Yeah, definitely an interesting addition from LIV Golf. We've also added golfers like Victor Perez and Thomas Dietrich this offseason, some more veteran guys to their roster as well. I want to skip in the rundown a little bit. We'll go to the Rory thing next. I saw this quote earlier today, and I found it kind of pretty eye-opening. Rory McIlroy was talking about potential LIV and PGA Tour reunification in his presser before some Abu Dhabi tournament for the DP World Tour this week. I don't remember the exact name of it, but he's competing in that. So in his pre-tournament presser, he mentioned I don't see a world where it happens and it being, you know, LIV and PGA Tour reunification. I think this is a little bit eye-opening in terms of, you know, Rory, you know, the amount of like I'm missing the word here, but the power that he has in a way of like what his words say, and also him being a big voice on the PGA Tour. Saying a quote like this, I know there were some talks back in, you know, last spring about the two tours being kind of close to actually coming together to a deal, but really a year later, and it really seems to be just completely out the window at this point.
Yeah, this was a lot of animosity coming from Rory. I mean, not really surprising, but to go after two of your Ryder Cup teammates like that in front of the media, you know, saying they need to pay up to the DP World Tour. Yeah. Definitely interesting. I mean, I don't know. This is the whole like weird thing about this whole situation. You know, the Civil War, what's been brewing over the past 2 to 3 years since LIV was formed. We don't really know what's going on. Like, we don't know what's going on behind the negotiation tables with the PIF and Roll-Up, and we don't know who they're talking to. We don't know what LIV's next move could be. I mean, I wasn't super, not to go back to it, but I wasn't super shocked by La Sasso, but that was still like a big move. I don't think anyone could have predicted that. I don't know. I can't really predict what's going to happen here. I mean, but yeah, definitely an interesting comment from Rory, though.
Yeah, it seems like it's an ever-evolving situation here. And I mean, 3 months ago, would we have thought the Brooks Koepka would be playing in the Farmers Insurance Open? Was it next 2 weeks now? So, like, things move fast in the golf world, especially with this PGA Tour and LIV stuff. But let's move on now to a different topic. And I want to talk about Vijay Singh a little bit. Did not expect to see Vijay Singh on the weekend, but he finished T40 and I think was 5 under, I believe, on the week. So a pretty impressive performance from Singh. He did say, or it was reported today, that he's not going to be playing a full PGA Tour schedule. It was something that Luke and I speculated about. Like, what happens if Vijay Singh decides, hey, I just want to use this career money exemption to play every event this year? Because we did some research on it, and it basically gives you one access to, one event, to each event one time, basically. So he could technically, I think, have used it for every single event or to play a full schedule this year, but is electing not to. He's going to go return to the Champions Tour, which he's still playing well at. So not exactly what maybe Luke and I were hoping for there, because I thought it would be pretty funny. But Vijay Singh back to the Champions Tour.
for the record, I would much rather have, Vijay Singh play a full PGA Tour schedule than some of these fringe players get sponsors exemptions into every tournament. So,
yes. Yeah, but I feel like the sponsor exemptions will still be there, though. Like, I don't think it's going to, get.
If I had to pick between one, though, I love Vijay's. He's one of the greats, man. Come on.
We were talking about it the other day. He has not spoken to the media in like 10 years. So he's he's doing his own thing. Props to him. Yeah. But we've got a golf tournament this weekend to preview, and that is the American Express in La Quinta, California. This is a very unique tournament because the golfers will be playing 3 different golf courses over Thursday through Saturday: the Pete Dye Stadium course, La Quinta Country Club, and the Nicklaus Tournament course, or PGA West. So the players are going to rotate these 3 courses from Thursday through Saturday. Then after 3 rounds, there will be a 56-hole cut, and then T65 or better, per usual, will then play the stadium course on Sunday. 2025 last year, Sepp Straka came away with the win at the Amex, and in 2024, your guy Nick Dunlap did. Pretty much, though, it's been really low scores every year, and that is kind of the thing with the Amex is you're going to get super low scores, and the winner is not usually who you expect it to be. Henry, just initial thoughts on heading into the tournament this weekend. We'll start maybe with the courses themselves. It's a very unique tournament just because of the way the format is laid out.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of stuff. I mean, to be honest, I don't have any thoughts on the Amex. I don't choose to think about the Amex much, but definitely one of the more unique tournaments on the tour calendar. Usually over the past few years, it's trended to favor guys who are better around the green. Like we saw Nick Dunlap, who's one of the worst drivers on the PGA Tour, can basically do everything. He has everything in his bag except playing off the tee, which is catastrophic for him in most tournaments. But he won his first ever tournament there 2 years ago. Then, of course, we saw Sepp win last year. I saw Data Golf has Scottie at like a 29% chance to win.
That's insane.
I think the next closest person is like 3. So, I mean, it should be interesting. I know there was like a viral video today of Scottie practicing. He went like 6 under on 9 holes.
9. I watched that right before this. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it going to be Scottie versus the field this week, or is there going to be a guy who pops up, you think?
Yeah, I don't think Scottie will win this week, which is like famous last words because this guy wins every single time he plays. But I mean, it's a really solid field. You've got 5 players in the top 10 in the world, 9 in the top 20, and then 27 of the top 50. So it is a very solid field for a non-signature event and a full field PGA Tour event. One thing on the courses before we get to some predictions. Well, I'll start with the Pete Dye Stadium course. Did some research on it. You've got a lot of water hazards around the green, and that's kind of with all 3 of these courses, just because of California golf courses is kind of what it's like. You've got the Island Green, of course, on 17. In terms of La Quinta, you've got La Quinta. To me, is a very unique layout, just because you've got houses left and right. Not a lot of room if you are poor off the tee. Not a lot of room in terms of inbounds play if you miss the fairway. So you've got to be accurate, but ultimately, it's going to come down to the plays around the green and putting in a week like this. There's going to be very low scoring, and then finally the Nicklaus Tournament course. You've got this one's unique between the other 2 just because of the bunkers. You've got long bunkers stretching all the way down the fairway on some sides. You've got water hazards in play on multiple holes. I believe about a fourth or a third of the holes you've got water in play for the tournament course. So just 3 courses that are kind of the pinnacle of California golf courses. Around the area too in La Quinta is just golf courses galore with PGA West and the Pete Dye Stadium course and all that. So it is going to be an interesting, scoring wise, just because in the past, we've seen scores win that were like 25 under, 26 under. So I would expect some low scoring scores in this one. But Henry, any last thoughts before we get to the predictions of the field overall of the courses?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a classic Pete Dye weekend, hit your targets. avoid the mistakes, maybe get a little aggressive. You know, it's target golf. I mean, anybody who's played a PTI course knows how those things usually roll. I mean, if you're precise with your irons and off the tee, and I mean, you're gonna have to keep up scoring here, but if you can do those things, you're gonna have a good chance here. So yeah, those are my baseline thoughts on this week.
Yeah, I do find it interesting too that these courses are like right next to mountains. I don't know wind wise if that'll play a factor at all with the mountains being there, but if it's not windy, I mean, these guys are they might break 30 under over the course of the 4 days. But let's jump into the predictions. This was the board. I've got myself and I've got Luke's predictions for this week on it. Henry, I'll get to yours in a second, but this is a season-long game that Luke and I are doing where we pick 4 golfers every week, one of them in the top 15 OWGR, one of them outside the top 15 OWGR, a past winner of the event of that week, and then a classic one and done for only that category. It's pretty close after last week. Luke leads $273,127 to myself, who was $245,827. So about a $30,000 difference after last week. Henry, I picked Colin Morikawa in one of these categories. I think it was top 50, and he gave me nothing. I'm still only 30,000 off. So still there early on in the season. Only one tournament in. We'll start with the top 50. Luke went ahead with Justin Rose, who is making his PGA Tour debut this season. He is the, I believe, 10th in OWGR currently. And then I went ahead and went with Ben Griffin, who is playing his second PGA Tour event after playing in the Sony Open last week. He made the cut, and I believe it was like T17 or something. So just another consistent performance from BG. Henry, is there a golfer in the top 50 that stands out to you this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay. He's sitting at 27 in the rankings. He's had a lot of success at this tournament. I believe out of the entire field, he has like the highest average finish out of anybody who's played this tournament before. I did some digging. I looked at his stats. Last year, he finished 5th place, and he was abysmal with his irons. He lost over a stroke and a half gained. Very uncharacteristic for him. He's been solid with his irons. So I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay on top 50.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe this was Luke's thoughts as well, I felt like going with Scottie Scheffler would just be a cheap out option. So neither of us did. And Scottie's probably going to be the best answer at the end of the day. But I went with Griffin, and Luke went with Rose. You went with Cantlay. Let's get now to outside of the top 50. Luke went ahead with Will Zalatoris, and Zalatoris is coming off of that back surgery that he had back in May, I believe, of last year. He seems to be healthy, seems to be in a good mood. I had a really interesting interview with Friday Golf I believe it was like a week or so ago, where he kind of talked about his journey back and how he's feeling really healthy to compete multiple weeks in a row this season. So Luke went ahead and went with Zalatoris. I went with Akshay Bhatia, who maybe is kind of a cop-out for this one because he was inside the OWGR top 50 before the Sony Open, but then didn't participate and got knocked out of it after last week. So I went with Akshay who I think is going to be in for a big year. Henry, is there someone that you think outside the top 50?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the rankings. I'm probably going to have to take a flyer on these last 3 slots, but I'm going to go with JT Poston. He's had a lot of success at the Amex in the past. I believe he's had 4 top 15 finishes here. He sits 56th in the rankings for those who want to know that. But last year, this was his 3rd tournament he ended up playing. I mean, he played the Century, of course, rest in peace, and the Sony before. Didn't have the greatest finish at either. And then the Amex was kind of his, one of his best, early season tournaments. It may have been his best, actually, but I'm going to go with JT Poston for the top 50. All
right, now moving on to the 3rd category, past winner of this event. Now, in this one, this week, there's really not many. I believe there was 3 or 4 total answers that are actually available. Luke went with Sepp Straka, who won last year. I went with Siwoo Kim, and I believe the only other option is your Crimson Tide buddy Nick Dunlap.
Let's go, man. Nick Dunlap. I'll definitely get into this eventually, but I might as well now. I was a freshman in college working for our student newspaper, the Crimson White, when Nick Dunlap won, and I was actually on the men's golf beat because by the time I signed up for the paper in August, that was one of the only like sports left. So, and I like golf, so I'm like, all right, I'll just cover men's golf. Like, I know we have the U.S. Amateur champ on our team. Why not? And then he ended up winning a tournament, and all of a sudden, I was 2 days later skipping class to go to a press conference where Nick Dunlap announced he was going to the PGA Tour. So that was definitely a surreal experience as a 18-year-old to be covering that. But Nick Dunlap, that's my guy. I mean, like I talked about him before, not great off the tee, but maybe the Amex is going to be his, maybe the Amex is just the Nick Dunlap tournament. Like, what if he wins this week and then, like, this is just, like, they rename it after him or something? Because
the Nick Dunlap Amex American Express tournament, man. I mean, yeah. He played well at the Worldwide Technology Championship back in, when was this? November, I think.
He was in contention last week, too. I mean, I'm pretty sure
he was T61. He was T61.
Like he was on the leaderboard
for the first day. Yes, for the first day, I believe.
During the week, yeah.
Yeah, I believe he was maybe in the top 15 on the first day, but yeah.
I mean, he literally is like positive strokes gained and everything, but off the tee, he's losing like every stroke possible. I mean, he's just thugging it out without a tee shot. So hopefully we figure that out soon. He can come back to our multi-million-dollar facility, the Crimson Reserve, and get that sorted out when he has some more free time.
If we're seeing these like college basketball players who've competed in the G League and like with two-way contracts come back and play college basketball,
I was thinking about this today. He left school as a freshman, he's a year older than me. He left as a sophomore, so like I think like I don't know if Alabama already took a NBA player today. Maybe it'll take a PGA Tour player next. I don't know what I mean. Maybe if he only played on Q school, they could take him a little easier. But I don't know. That would be pretty good, though. I mean, they could definitely use another Nick Dunlap on the team. So
yeah, I mean, what he was the amateur champion, right? So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he shot 60 at like the SEC match play, which was like the 8th time that ever happened in like college golf history. So like they would definitely be happy if Nick Dunlap sued the NCAA and got eligibility. That's I mean, it seems like if you just sue the NCAA, you'll be back in anyways. So that's or just file a restraining order. That's the that's the new method. That's the new method that got cracked today.
Yeah, hasn't been patched yet, so he can get in. But the final one, a one and done. Last week, Luke picked Denny McCarthy, and then I picked Kurt Kitayama. They finished, I believe, the same place last week. So this week he went with Tony Finau. I'm going with Ben Griffin. Henry, I know you might not be on here every week, but you got a good one and done selection.
Wait, what? I don't even know what one and done is.
Okay. Hold on. One and done is so you pick a golfer each week, but you can't use the golfer for the rest of the season.
Oh. Dang. So burning Ben Griffin kind of early is surprising.
No. Trust. Because think about it. There's going to be a new Ben Griffin in April or in May, and he will be the new. You got to pick him, and then Ben Griffin will just be Ben Griffin. Like, he'll just be okay. There's a lot of options left. And in a birdie fest, Griffin, very consistent player. Last week made the cut in I believe it was like T20 something. I want to say T19. He won the Worldwide Technology Championship. I trust Ben BJ here.
I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to do this segment, but
you might as well just go ahead and take.
I'm going to choose to save my cards. I want to be able to have a Ben Griffin when it gets later in the season. I'm just going to stick on the Alabama trending. Go with my guy Bud Cauley.
Okay.
Finished T24 last week. I mean, he was positive strokes gained and basically everything just didn't do much. Didn't score enough. But he's been solid at this tournament before. In 2020, he finished 3rd place in 2017, 4th in 2020. So, I mean, I'm just following the trends here. I'm kind of
trends from a decade ago.
Yeah. All right. Bud Cauley, trust.
Okay. All right. He had 4 top 10s on tour last year, including a 3rd at the Schwab. That was his best finish since a long time. All right, but yeah, that'll do it for the predictions, and that'll probably wrap things up for this little bit chaotic episode. But Henry, I want to say thanks for coming on, and yeah, I'm excited for what you're going to do here with Sunday Flags.
Excited to be here. Thank you guys all for listening.
Yeah, all right. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Sunday Flags. We'll be back on Sunday night following the Amex. I believe Luke will be back for that as well. But yeah, just again, want to thank Henry for coming on. You can follow all of his work. What's the ad again?
Henry O. Sklar on Twitter. I mean, shoot me a LinkedIn connect if you want to as well. Always helps. So.
Yeah, shoot in that LinkedIn connection. You can maybe have more connections than Fernando Mendoza at one point. I don't know. But yeah, that'll wrap things up for Sunday Flags. And yeah, that'll be it. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.